guys, today we're going to talk about the hips. One of the most common sort of complaints that I get from students is pain that they're feeling in their hips that is recurrent. And it is very, very common. A lot of people have it. And there's two ways that we can deal with this. I'm going to go through a couple of exercises today to help you, first of all, combat it when it arrives. So a couple of stretches that you can do to help deal with the pain when it comes and it just becomes too much. And then also a couple of stabilizing movements that you can do which will help combat the problem long term. Often hip pain is the result of just instability in the core and also in through the hips. So for today's class, you're going to need a block or a book or maybe even a ball, actually, like this big, if you have one of those lying around. So go ahead, pause this video, grab something like that, like this, or like a ball to use, and then you can come back. So we're going to start today kneeling. If you're quite uncomfortable kneeling, by the way, you can also just grab that block and put it underneath your butt so that you can sit on the block if you would like, whatever you want to do. But you do want to be kneeling and sitting up nice and tall in your seat. You can go ahead and place your hands into your lap and close your eyes. Take an inhale and lengthen up through your spine. Then as you exhale, drop your shoulders away from your ears. Go ahead again for a nice long inhale to lengthen the head, the crown of the head up and the tailbones into the floor. And then exhale it out. And then I invite you just to bring one hand to the base of your belly and then one hand just to your sacrum with your fingers pointing down. I'm just going to help to give you an understanding of your pelvic tilt here. So with one hand on your belly and one hand on your spine, don't do anything just yet. Just see if you can feel for where your spine is sitting very naturally here whilst you're not trying it. You may be able to feel around your belly as well, to feel for tightness, to feel if your muscles are engaged here, your transverse abdominis, that deep core muscle, or if it's very loose and your belly feels like it's projecting out. So not trying to change anything, just getting an understanding of how the pelvis is sitting right now. And then very slowly, excuse me, very slowly, you're just going to start to tuck the tailbone down. So you can do this by sweeping your fingertips down to get a sense of the tailbone lengthening down. And then as you do that, you can pull your belly kind of in and up very, very slightly so that your pelvis starts to sort of tilt backwards. And then you're going to tilt it the other way. So you're going to press through the thumb of your back hand, the ball of your back hand, and press the front of your fingers down. So you're tilting the pelvis the other way. And then tilt it back. And then forward. And then try and find a position that's kind of in between those two, where you have a kind of lengthening through your tailbone and an elongation through your spine, and you are active through your belly, so your belly is not protruding out, the muscles are not relaxed, they're engaged, but they're not overly engaged, which like creates an overly tilted pelvis. So you want to have a kind of neutral position here, and this is the optimal position for your pelvis so that you're not placing too much strain on your hips in one direction or the other. So you can go ahead and release now through your pelvis and the front of your belly, and then just roll over, find your way onto all fours. So now that you're on all fours, you'll bring your hands underneath your shoulders, spread your fingers out nice and wide, knees underneath your hips. And then again, we've just found a neutral pelvis, so go ahead and see if you can find that neutral pelvis here in this position. See if you can find it there. And then press into the mat and create an activation through your upper body and an elongation through the crown of your head. So keeping your pelvis in that neutral position, you're just going to extend your left foot out behind you, coming up onto your left tiptoes. So you want to keep your left hip pointing down. It's not quite rolling open. You're still keeping nice and strong through the center of your pelvis there. And then very slowly and with control, so the whole of your body will not move except for your hip, as you use your glute to bring the left foot up, and you'll keep your toes pointing down. Now you'll find that your foot won't really go a lot higher than your hip. Well, it shouldn't go higher because as we bring the foot higher, we start to drop through the belly, which we don't want. So we're trying to keep that neutral pelvis, and then just use the strength of our glute to get the foot up. Now you will feel a tilt in your pelvis as you curl your knee out to the side of you, and that's fine, but just see if you can keep your belly nice and strong as you pull your knee into your side. Keep that knee up and strong, and then you're just going to extend that left foot out. Keep it lifted nice and high, then drop it down to the floor. So let me change position so you can see really clearly here. You'll have the outside edge of your foot pressing down into the floor, and you're drawing up from the sole there. So draw up from the sole, so nice and long and lifted through your spine, and then you can rise up, bringing your hands up overhead. So keep pressing into the outer edge of that left foot, most important, and then keeping a nice long length in your upper body. You're just going to start to send your hips back and reach your arms forward. So again, we're using this strength through our glutes, through our pelvis, and through our core, just to send your hips back. And then when you find that your hip touches your heel, you can drop your hands to the floor. And you still want to be pressing into the outer edge of that left foot, so you can start to feel an opening through the inside of your left leg. If this is too uncomfortable, you can always come up a little bit. You might even feel the stretch here. Totally fine. Wherever you feel it is fine. But you do want to be pressing into the outside edge of that foot. Nice, and then keeping on all fours, you can just slowly find your way up, keeping that foot out to the side. And then we're going to bring it in the same way that we sent it out. So engaging through your core, making yourself really active and strong, you'll lift that left leg up. Flex the foot. Then you can curl the knee in, so you're still kind of open through the pelvis, and then kick the foot back. And now that that foot is lifted nice and high, not nice and high, but hip height, see if you can think about, again, resetting your pelvis to that neutral position, so you're not collapsing through the lower back, you're pulling your belly in, and using the strength of your deep abdominal muscles to support your spine and support your hip. And then once you've got that nice long line, you can see if you can drop the knee to the floor, nice and controlled. Taking it to the other side now, see if you can find that nice length through your spine once again, and you'll extend the right leg out. Remember that your pelvis is in a neutral position and your core is really engaged and strong here. So there's no movement as you lift the leg anywhere except for through your hip. So you're going to bring that right foot up, using the full strength of your right glute to bring it up. Keep the toes pointing down, keep nice and strong and stable in your upper body. And then you'll draw the knee into the side so you kind of open up through the hips. And then extend it out. Keep the foot lifted nice and high. Then very slowly place it down to the floor. As you get there, you press into the outer edge of that foot, draw up from the sole, then you can find your way up. Reach your hands up overhead, take a big breath in, and then as you exhale, send your hips slowly, the key is slowly, back towards that back heel as you reach forward. Nice. And with your hands on the floor and pressing into the outer edge of that right foot, you can start to stretch a little, open a little into the inside of the right leg. Cool. And then slowly you can find your way forward so that you're coming back to having your elbows stacked over your wrists. And you'll lift your foot up with the same control that you put it down with. So engaging through your core to support your leg as it comes up. Lift the leg up. Curl it in. Keep the knee lifted. You're still open through the hips. And then you'll send it back with the toes pointing down. Keeping your belly super strong and stable. Your right hip points down. And you want to see if you can find that neutral pelvis once again. Then very, very slowly, you can start to drop the knee down. Nice, take a big breath in through your nose. And then on the exhale, curl your toes and lift your hips into the first down dog. So take a sec just to walk out your feet. So you can bend one knee and then the other. Seeing what's going on through them hips, the backs of the legs. Maybe stack one hip, then the other to open up. Cool, and then you're just going to step your right foot towards your, well, in between your hands. So step your right foot forward and you can drop that left knee down. I always kind of like here to put a block underneath the knee to get some elevation on the knee to help deepen the stretch if you would like that. Otherwise, you can just put your foot on the floor. And then all we're doing here is dropping into the left side of this hip to kind of open it up a bit. And as you do that, as you drop through it, think about pulling your right hip back and then using the strength of your left glute to press that left hip forward. And the more intensity that you have pressing through the left glute, the more openness you'll feel through that left hip flexor. You choose your intensity. Just take some time to work into the left side there. Perfect, and then place your hands kind of flat on the floor. You're going to wiggle your toes, wiggle your foot over to your left hand so you can drop the right knee and then drop the hip. And we're going to come all the way down, moving that block to a seated position where your legs kind of make a right angle. So you're going to bring your right foot just in front of the left knee and then the left leg kind of makes a straight line. So it looks like an edge. And then you're going to send yourself to face forward. So facing over the front of your right shin, sitting up nice and tall. And then you can feel for this left hip where it sits above the floor. So you might be quite high above the floor like me. I don't really have a huge range of motion in my hips. And if you don't either, that's fine too. So what you want to feel for is this curl back with the hips so that you can press the left hip bone towards the ground. Perfect, and then when you've got that and you're feeling a kind of evenness, or you're definitely feeling an activation through the left hip bone into the ground, you can take a breath in and reach your hands up overhead. And then breathe out, drop your right hand and gently reach across through the left side body. Keep actively pressing that left hip into the ground. Inhale, come up. Both hands come up. Breathe out, left hand drops. Press through the other side. Breathing, come up. Exhale, right hand drops, and you can actually press into the right hand a little bit to help facilitate the press of the left hip down. Inhale, up. And then exhale, left hand drops, right hand reaches. Good, all the way up. Bring your hands out to the front of your mat. Roll over. You're going to find your way back into a downward dog position, walking through your hips. Feeling for, if you feel any kind of difference between one hip and the other. Maybe, maybe not, but hopefully a little bit. Moving to the other side now, you're going to step your left foot towards your hands. Drop the right knee, so you can drop it again onto a block or just onto your mat, whatever feels comfortable. And so you can work your way into the left hip flexor to open it up a little bit. So again, think about sending the hip crease of your left hip back and pulling the right hip forward using the strength of your glute so it kind of projects it forward. So what you're doing here is you're using the strength that you have in your hips to help create an openness through the hip flexor rather than just collapsing into the pose. So actually you might be able to go a bit lower and collapse into it, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to use the strength that we have to facilitate this opening. Take one more breath here. And then you can remove that block, wiggle your left foot across to the right hand, and you can drop onto the knee, coming into this, I don't actually know what you call this shape, a right angle shape. Coming into this shape on the other side now. So again, your left foot is kind of aligned just kind of in front of your right knee, and that right shin comes out so that it makes a sort of L shape with your legs. And then you can feel for this press through the right hip. You want to think about pressing it back and down into the ground. Just as far as it'll go. If it doesn't go too far, that's cool. You might also want to get like a blanket or something and put a blanket underneath your left hip here. If it's very elevated off the ground and you need some support, that's cool. So you want to think about pressing it down, and then take a breath in and reach your hands up overhead. And then you can drop your left hand, reach up through the right. Again, use the pressure of the left hand to push the right hip into the floor. Breathe in, come up. And then take it to the other side. Right hand drops, reach over with the left. Inhale up. Exhale, left hand drops, reach. Inhale up. Exhale, right hand drops, reach. Keep pressing the right hip into the floor. Back to the center. Nice, and then this time you can release your feet forward on the mat, extending your legs out right in front of you. So take a sec just to remove the flesh from underneath your sit bones. And feel the weight of your sit bones grounding evenly into the floor. And you want to bring your feet hip distance apart, maybe a little bit wider as well. Sit up nice and tall through your upper body. Your hands can be wherever you want them to be. Doesn't matter too much. And then you're going to activate the feet. So you're going to pull your toes in towards your face. And you're just going to send your big toes towards each other. So we're going for a kind of internal rotation through the thighs here. So press them towards one another. Doesn't matter if they touch or not, but you're using the strength from the outside of your hips and your legs to curl in. Stay nice and tall as you sit. Perfect. And then you can fan your feet out the other way. Again, fan them in. Hold it there. Keep curling your toes in towards your face. Sitting up nice and tall in your seat, and then you can release. Perfect. Give your legs a little take a breath in, reach your hands up overhead, and then we'll just go for a nice forward bend here. So again, pulling your toes in towards your face, keeping a little bit of activation through your legs. Send your chest nice and high, and then draw it forward. Belly button comes kind of towards your thighs as you feel a stretch now through the backs of your legs, back to the hips, maybe into the lower back if you're super tight there as well. Nice, and then you can go ahead and release. Draw your right knee in towards your chest, and you're going to take your left hand, grab a hold of your right foot, right hand to the knee, and we're just going to be here drawing circles with the knee. So nice big wide circles. Again, sitting up nice and tall. If you're feeling super flexible through your hips as well, you can bring your left foot into the nook of your arm so that you can kind of cradle it like a baby. And then keep making the circles. Change the direction of the circle as well. Might feel good just to rock it side to side as well if you're here. Just getting a little bit of openness through the right hip now. Cool. And then you can go ahead and release that foot, taking it to the other side, drawing the left knee in now. Taking a hold of the left foot with the right hand and the opposite hand to the knee, nice and tall as we draw these big circles through the hip joint. And then if you're feeling super flexible, you also have the option to take a hold of it and keep it going, keep the movement through the hip, change direction. Rock side to side as well if you're kind of cradling your leg like this. We're just looking to mobilize the hip in any way that we can here. And then you can go ahead and release it down. You come to lie on your back now, bringing your feet towards your bum and bringing your knees up. Take your block or your ball, whatever it is, and you want to bring it between your knees so that your knees are kind of
skeletal hip distance apart. So if you put your thumbs on the bony protrusion of your hips, that is the width of your hips, not this bit, this bit here. So make sure that your knees are as in line with your hips as possible. So you might want to change the width of the block or the size of the ball, whatever you're using. So you just want to go ahead and place that between your knees, tuck your chin into your chest, bring your hands by your sides with your palms facing up. Take a big breath in through your nose. And then as you exhale, you want to think about tilting your pelvis down, so you're tucking your tailbone underneath, and start to press weight into your feet as you curl your hips up off of the floor. And as you do that, begin to squeeze into your block or your ball, nice and tight, squeezing in, squeezing, and then you'll squeeze through your hips as well, through your glutes, to lift your hips. Your hands are still by your side with your palms facing up. And you're just going for this kind of long, they call it ramp pose in Pilates. So it's a kind of modified bridge pose for the yogis in the house. So keep lifting your hips up, keep squeezing that block between your knees. And keep your breath steady and even. Perfect, and then you're just going to go ahead and slowly release, but do so very slowly, dropping each vertebra individually, tucking your tailbone as well so that your tailbone drops last. Keep squeezing onto that block the whole way down. And then when you get there, go ahead and grab the block. You can release it. Bring your hands into your knees into your hands, give yourself a nice big hug. Take some circles through your hips. Change the direction of the circles as well. Perfect. And then we'll take Baddha Konasana to finish up. Bringing the soles of your feet to touch and letting your knees just fall out to the sides. You can bring one hand to your heart and one hand to your belly. Tuck your chin to your chest. Take a few breaths here. Feeling into any kind of sensations that have woken up through your hips. And allowing in a little bit of softness. Letting all that activation just settle now. And then you can bring your hands underneath your knees, guide them together. And then you can take a traditional Savasana, extending your legs out, or bring your feet to the edges of the mat, knocking your knees together, and one hand to your heart, one hand to your belly. Letting go of everything that you're holding on to now, and letting your body truly soften into the mat. Slowly now you can begin to wiggle through your fingers and toes. Take some deeper breaths. Maybe some spins through the wrists, through the ankles, as you come to curl on your right hand side in the fetal position. And then very gently you can press yourself up, coming to seated. Bringing your hands together at your heart center, feeling the heat between the palms of your hands and pressing your thumbs into your chest to feel for your heartbeat. And you may bring your thumbs to your foreheads. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed that. A little introduction into stabilizing the hips a little more. I do recommend that you do that in conjunction with some core work, specifically working through the transverse abdominal muscles, so these deep core muscles here, to really give you long-term stability and strength in your hips, which will help you avoid pain. So if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Like that. And yeah, I hope to see you again soon. Have a lovely day, night, weekend, life.